2018, Dalradian trucks rolled into the area in the Sperrins. It was a cold winter morning, and they was dumping lots of rocks, and they were putting up fences, and the people said no. They did not have community support. They did not have community consent. So before you knew it, a caravan miraculously appeared. And then another. And then another appeared in the air in the trees. Have you all seen that image of the caravan in the trees? And these images are iconic. They're iconic because these images, this is revolutionary what these people are doing. Peaceful protests. They're standing up for their rights. They're protecting their environment. Because what these companies do internationally is they pollute. They go in, they take all they can, and they destroy the environment. They destroy the air, and they're a danger, a public health danger. So this campaign started in 2018, and it's been growing and gaining momentum since. And if you visit the Greencastle People's Office, which I have done on several occasions now, the kennel is always on. They're so friendly, the crack is mighty, family, children. It's just such a beautiful place. And why our politicians would sign off on the destruction in an area of outstanding natural beauty is beyond me. There is no sense in our politicians supporting this. It is madness. It is ecocidal madness. Okay, so this campaign today has been started by the Greencastle People's Office, so I want a huge round of applause for their efforts. So who was there in Stormont a few months ago? Who was able to make that trip? Yeah, we got the righties. Get on it. The Eco Warriors. Brilliant, right? Well, in that, this is about delivering letters to politicians. And this letter was read out brilliantly at Stormont by a woman called Michelle, who sadly couldn't make it today. And they've given me the honour of asking me to read it out for them, and I hope I can do it the justice that she did. So this is for our politicians. This is why we march. This is why we stand up. So, what would you expect to find 1,200 metres from a primary school in an area of outstanding natural beauty? A toxic waste dump towering 54 metres tall, an explosive store, a working mine rumbling and roaring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. When you picture happy kids playing hopscotch and tape in the schoolyard, surrounded by green fields and heather-clad mountains, do you imagine clouds of toxic dust floating over their heads? We are the people of the Sperrin Mountains, a designated area of outstanding natural beauty. This land is profoundly precious to us. We love it like we love our families, and we will do whatever it takes to protect this beautiful place from the risks of gold mining now and in the future. The Sperrins region is not a commodity to be drained, exploited and destroyed at will. It is a haven and it is a home, our home. It deserves political protection. The people who live on this land also deserve political representation and peace to live in and thrive in a healthy, non-toxic environment. At present, those same people live in constant anxiety about what the future holds. A life of agonising fear is no way for anyone to exist. Over the years, the silence from the main political parties at Stormont has been deafening. Open collaboration and support for the mining companies has been shown by some parties. This political betrayal of the Sperrins region is unforgivable. What these people have endured is unforgivable. They feel sold out, abandoned, unheard and dismissed. There is absolutely no community consent for Dalradian's project. Yay. Yes, there is no consent for this, and this is why we march. Our politicians are supposed to represent our views and amplify our voices. of us have said to date is a resolute no to mining companies invading and polluting our land. Where is the evidence of that no having been heard by the politicians of this island? Dublin, Belfast, where is the support? Dalradian Gold's planning application is a serious threat to our air quality and water, the drinking water of 41,000 people, to the health and futures of the humans, animals and fish who live in the Sperrins. The environmental damage has the potential to last for hundreds of years. We ask our politicians to listen to the will of the people, to stand in solidarity with us, to remember that history will judge the decisions they are making right now, and our children will judge the decisions they're making right now, because they are the ones who are going to ultimately suffer if something is not done about this. We are in the midst of a climate crisis. We need prudent, careful leadership that looks towards a clean and safe future for all. Now is the time to prove that you're on the side of the people and the children and not the big companies. Now is the time to listen to the people who put you in power. Now is the time to realise that 37,494 people cannot be ignored. Now is the time to do the right thing. Our landscape is irreplaceable and far more precious than gold. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome Fidelma O'Keefe to Save Our Sperrins, and she's going to be hosting, and I'm going to be her glamorous assistant. So the both of us together. So, so Fidelma's going to start off with the speeches. Thank you.
Agini Usla, Falcha Gujium Quenya Shaw, and Maya Hatlia, and Aine or an Igonia Minadoracta or an Aaron. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for coming to this meeting in Dublin that is against gold mining in Ireland. You're all very welcome. I'm from Save Our Sperrins campaign. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I'm from Save Our Sperrins campaign, which started in June 2015, and we really are opposing how the gold mining would pollute our water, our air, our land, and ultimately our health. Dalradian, a Canadian mining company, has applied for planning permission for a gold mine and a processing plant in the Sperrins, an area of outstanding natural beauty. They've been granted prospecting licences over 122,000 hectares in counties Tyrone and Derry, vast expanse of land. And probably people in Dublin don't realise already 28% of the 26 counties has been granted in prospecting licences to mining companies, most of them Canadian, and 25% of the northern 6 counties has been given out in prospecting licences. So, our governments, north and south, both go to a global mining conference in Toronto every year in the month of March. They've been going for up in 20 years to invite mining companies to come to Ireland. And they have a banner headline that says, Ireland is open for business. They promise mining companies, and they make that many promises, I need to read them, an immediate write-off of development and exploration expenditure, so no cost to the mining companies, low corporation tax, capital allowances of up to 120%, proactive government commitment. So we've been studying gold mining now for the past 6 years, and we have learned a bit about it. And really what we have found out is that gold mining is a very toxic industry. It will pollute our water, our air, our land and our health from the heavy metals it produces. Heavy metals like arsenic, mercury, lead, cadmium, copper, chromium, etc., a host of other metals. And also from the acids it uses and produces. Acids like sulfuric acid are associated with gold mining. It's called acid mine drainage. And once that process starts, it doesn't stop. It can't be stopped. from the fuels it uses. Dalradians say in their planning application they will use 3.3 million litres of diesel per year, every year for 20 years, and that's only on site, not to mention the traffic coming to and from their site. There will also be radioactive contaminants released from a mine almost 1,000 metres deep in the earth, because the whole northwest of Ireland is high in radon gas. And these particles, 2.5 fine particulate matter containing arsenic and mercury, will be blown about the whole country. And these are particularly dangerous because they lodge in people's lungs, and children are very vulnerable. And once they're lodged in your lungs, you can't get them out, and they cause cancers and various respiratory diseases. They will also be blown over our land with the high ones we have, and the toxic, the whole cocktail of toxins that are produced by the mine will leach and leak into our water table, into our rivers and streams, and that also will affect the people and animals and birds, etc. So people need, sorry, I should have said first, farming, fishing and tourism are all at stake if gold mining is allowed to go ahead in Ireland. The clean, green image of the country will be destroyed. People need clean air and clean water to survive. We don't need gold. Our health is our wealth. Money can't buy health. I would urge you to do your own research into gold mining. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look it up. Gold mining and its effects on water, on air, on land, on health. And we'd ask you also if you would lobby your politicians to oppose gold mining, and to let them know that Ireland says no to gold mining. And hopefully today the politicians here will take note of that. We are fighting this campaign, as someone has already said, for our children and for our grandchildren and for the future generations of our country. Already almost 38,000 objections have been lodged against Dalradian's mining application. And we ask you all to help us stop this toxic industry. Please sign an objection here today, or if you can't see someone with objections, go on our Facebook page, Save Our Sperrins, and get a sample objection and download it, or you can email it into the planning department. And can I say that anyone, any age, anywhere in the world can send in an objection. So you please get your family, your neighbours, your friends and your workmates all to send in objections, because we want this to be the biggest objected to planning application in the history of the world.
We only have to look at the way the government of Ireland are treating the people. We look at the way they're dealing with the COVID crisis, the homeless crisis, the suicide crisis. Ireland is a country in crisis. It's a very intensity of Tyrone. If they can beat us into submission, they will be emboldened to turn their bloody hands elsewhere. Their poisonous tentacles are already slithering around Loughnane, the Mourne Mountains, County Fermanagh, Mahara, to name but a few. Ireland is a very small country, and the effects of gold extraction and fracking will impact us more than we will ever know in our lifetime. Exploiting the natural resources of Ireland is not a new phenomenon, but it is made possible by a disease that has rotten our world to the core, and that disease is capitalism. The fact that 600 billion have been made during the pandemic, of the COVID pandemic alone, highlights their ruthless nature. When they see fit to make profit at the expense of people's suffering. There are more than enough resources in this world. We do not need to tear up the beautiful land of Tyrone to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. The single life of a human being is worth a million times more than all the property of the richest man on the earth. The people of Tyrone have risen up. Enough is enough. We have marched to storm it. We are now at Leinster House. It is time to stop voting for the fame and money-hungry vultures that mask themselves as public servants, and start supporting those who genuinely work for the betterment of the people. Paul Gallagher, Eamon, the only elected MLA that appeared at Stormont, their moral compass for petty gain, have never and never will represent us. Any institution which does not suppose the people good and the magistrate corrupt is evil. I will finish in the words of Cora Pierce. And I say to my people's masters, beware. Beware of the thing that is coming. Beware of the risen people, who shall take what ye would not give. Did ye think to conquer the people, or that law is stronger than life and than men's desire to be free? We will try it out with you, ye that have harried and held, ye that have bullied and bribed, tyrants, hypocrites, liars.
Okay, now just we're going to have some speakers from the various campaign groups throughout Ireland, and just so that people know that this, in the last few months, there's been an All-Ireland anti-mining group formed, and it's called CAIM, C-A-I-M, Communities Against the Injustice of Mining. So, first of all, I'll call on Marella from CAMIO in Omagh to cooperate against mining in Omagh, and Marella will speak first. Okay, thank you.
Okay, how you doing? I'm Marella from Omagh, and I'm here with some of the CAMIO folks, Cooperation Against Mining in Omagh. Thanks for coming along, it's great to see you all. We're yet another wee mining group from the Sperrins. So, little thieves have iron chains, big thieves have gold ones. Here today in Dublin, we have chosen to stand with many other mining groups from across Ireland, raising awareness about the blight of toxic mining, threatening to pollute the future quality of life on the island of Ireland. To divert for a moment, a report 2 days ago from UNICEF published warns that almost half of the world's 2.2 billion children are already at extreme high risk from the impacts of climate change. UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Fore said, for the first time, this report gives a complete picture of where and how children are vulnerable to climate change, and that picture is almost unimaginably dire. Virtually no child's life will be unaffected. According to UNICEF, Children Climate Risk Index, I'm speaking about the UK here because I don't have figures for Ireland, and this is this week's figures. The UK comes at 111th on the index of 163 countries. Ain't looking so good, and can Ireland be far away from that figure? Okay, yet in Northern Ireland, our political leaders are setting out on a path to further aggravate our climate crisis by deliberately inviting and encouraging extractive industries, adding who knows how many billions of tons of carbon to an already overburdened atmosphere. Commercial and political bright green washing endeavour to sell the idea to the people under the guise of infrastructure needed to fight climate change. Phrases such as carbon neutral, ethical mining, are complete and utter horseshit, used to retain the status quo of big business. Instead of going to war on our climate crisis, our Northern Ireland Executive are criminally adopting a policy of irreversible devastation by embracing so-called carbon neutral mining, ravaging the very ecosystems and ecologies that lock up carbon, polluting our futures, contaminating our children. There is no visible road to zero net emissions through mining. Billions being poured into high carbon activities such as new infrastructure by financial cowboys to allegedly reduce carbon emissions is just plain lies. The biggest uncertainty, by far, in climate projections is what us humans will do. This doesn't just mean what other humans do. It is what I will do. It's the choices I make in whether or not I contribute to the global action that's needed. Once we focus on what we can change, it's amazing how many things we can actually do. It's clear to me our governments are in a state of paralysis. Our politicians lack authenticity and integrity. Looking for leadership from them to guide us out of our resources-driven climate chaos predicament is pointless. Waiting for them to do something just does not cut it anymore. As a community, we have been persuaded, advertised to, pressurised, lied to, incentivised, coerced, bullied, socially shamed, guilt-tripped, threatened, punished, and in my case, criminalised. Here's the thing. If all of this is considered necessary to gain our compliance, we can be absolutely certain that what is being promoted is not in our best interest. Our global political economic system prospers because of our consent. Intention can undo consent. Leadership must arise from the people. We, the people, must act today. We do this by listening to our hearts in the dark of the night, by turning into our inner world, listening to that voice which we instinctively know to be right, allowing ourselves to imagine a different future. We can use our actions to drive our own hope, rather than leaving it to someone else to do it for us. To be honest, there's many things I would rather be at today than standing on this on a street talking to folk, okay? But I believe that my actions count. I have chosen to act. I stand today and see this far and no further. Mining emissions with their accompanying ecological vandalism are not solutions to our climate crisis. Our children, grandchildren are depending on us. We're here today, communities from all across the north, from all sides of the political spectrum, because we do not want gold mining in our Sperrins. We as a community do not want this extraction-oriented form of industrialisation. The future of the planet is at stake. Now is the moment. No wavering, no watering down, no greenwashing by career politicians, no mining in Ireland. In the words of Arundhati Roy, another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. Thank you for listening.
Great to see so many people here. I'm an independent councillor in Fermanagh and Omagh. And the funny thing is, within the council, which I'm sure is no different than any other council or government department, there's a lot of talk about the environment and the climate and biodiversity, which is usually supported unilaterally. When it comes to the local issue of a gold mine in the Sperrins, where a multinational wants to come in, pollute, exploit, there's silence from the establishment. But there's an old saying, and that is, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. That may be true of the establishment politicians, but one thing's for sure, it's not true of the people of Greencastle and the people here today. They are clearly saying no to pollution, no to corruption, and no to exploitation. The message here today is clear. Dalradian and your collaborators, move on or be moved. The Irish people will not stand for any extractive process, whether it's fracking in Fermanagh, mining in Tyrone, or any other county in Ireland. They will oppose imperialism, multinationalism and corruption. Great to see you all here. Thank you.
Portugal got in it, sure. Yeah, I'm from Stad Inishowen against gold mining. Our group started towards the end of last year. We knew about what was going on in the Sperrins from the excellent work that the GPO were doing and the Sperrins and Fidelma and all the other people in the Sperrins. And this really inspired us to take action, because what we heard was an Irish company, a so-called Irish company called Arkle Resources, were renewing their prospecting licence in Inishowen. They're a company headquarters in Dublin, but also based in the London Stock Exchange. So we know in Inishowen at the moment, particularly this year, we're really up against it. It's really a horrible year for us because we barely have scandals going on. We have the Micah Crumbly Home scandal that people have heard about. We have the imposition or the attempted imposition of a Nashville plant in South Inishowen, and also the prospect of gold mining as well, gold mining prospecting, which we want to try and stop. What our work has consisted of at the moment is we've issued objection letters to the renewal of the licence, which was around May. Now, so far we haven't heard anything back. Normally you hear quite quickly whether they renew these licences, but we haven't heard anything back. But we do know that Arkle Resources, the company involved, have actually just received in the last couple of weeks a renewal or a prospecting licence for drilling for gold in Wicklow, close to the Wexford border. So if there's anybody here that knows people in that area, I think that the nearest town is Carnew in Wicklow, please contact me, because we're trying to engage with those people, because as other speakers have said, this gold mining is spreading all over Ireland, and it's often done, under the radar, away from, people's view, and that's the way these companies want it. I know Dalradian seem to have operated in a different way, very boastful way, very arrogant way, but a lot of the companies, from my understanding, is they try to keep it quiet. So if anybody is, or knows anybody from that particular area around Wicklow, please contact me after the meeting here today. The other thing that we're concerned about is SETA and its corporate courts, which is to be ratified by Dáil Ireland here. We've actually issued a submission to the Rockers Committee, specifically set up to ratify this SETA agreement with its corporate courts. The reason it has to be, it's an agreement between Canada and the European Union, and normally speaking with these type of so-called agreements, people are never consulted. The legislators of the individual EU countries are never consulted. There's never any vote taken. Usually it's just the EU Commission sanctions it. They might send it to the EU Parliament, European Parliament, just to rubber stamp it. But because they have corporate courts as part of their clause, they were forced by the European Court to send it back to the various parliaments in the EU. Now here in Ireland, they tried to actually sneak it through using COVID as a cover. But luckily enough, we have progressive TDs here in Leinster House to put a stop to this. So they kicked the touch and they said, let's put it to the Rockers Committee. So what we said is, well, one action we can actually do is send in a submission from our group. Individuals can do it and groups can do it. And again, at the end of this meeting, if you come up to me and I'll take your email addresses, because I can actually send you our submission, which is quite detailed, also quite passionate, because we need to back up our TDs that are in there fighting against this SETA and its corporate courts. So the more effort we can put into that, the more chance we have of it stop it from being ratified. And my understanding is if it's not ratified in one parliament, it can't be ratified to the rest of the EU. And the reason we're worried about the corporate courts, people may be fairly aware of them, is they'll actually sue. For instance, if we stop the gold mines here in Ireland, they'll sue not just for the amount of expenses that they put into drilling or prospecting or marketing, but they'll actually sue us for projected earnings, 20 years on. So
it's a very important point. It's a very important point.
I believe in the Sperrins, something like 40 tons of gold is to come out, if I'm not mistaken, over 20 years. So what they will actually do is they'll actually sue people for whatever that's worth. So we need to try and put an effort in. We know we have good TDs in there fighting against this, but we need to back them up. We know, for instance, in Europe itself, in Romania, the people in the Rossa Maria area, they've mobilised just like us in their hundreds and their thousands, and they stopped the gold mine there. The government refused to give the licence for the gold mine. They're now being sued for 4 billion. But it's not just after the event that we stop it, it's also before the event, because in Armenia they're fighting a gold mine, and one of the issues that the gold miners and their agents and their allies within the country tried to sneak in was that, oh, we better not fight this gold mine because we could get sued by the corporate courts for $2 billion, even though there was no tangible link between corporate courts and gold mining in Armenia. So we could have the same situation here with some of our so-called politicians who will turn around and say, yeah, we're against gold mining in Inishowen, we're against gold mining in Connemara, we're against gold mining in the Sperrins. But what they will do is they'll say, oh, we've signed over to this corporate court system. They could sue us for billions, and that will be used to undermine our struggle. So we need to put some focus on that if we could, please. Okay. For 2 minutes, okay, so that's about the rest of your time.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Yeah, think you can. Hold it up closer, yes? Myself and Bernie are from the Drumgossett Knocknacran group, and we are, can't remember where this, anyway, in 2018, on the 24th of September, we had a subsidence which took away our community centre and our football field, and this company, Drumgossett and Gyprock, have been in our parish 80 years and plan to stay for another 80. We already have the underground mine, we have an existing open cast, and within the next couple of months they're putting in planning permission for a second open cast. Our parish is only 15 miles long and 3 miles wide, so we really need the help from the group to try and put an end to this, because people have lost their homes. 5 families have actually lost their homes. They're very close to schools, but anybody in the area is told they're unaffected. You may have mines next door to you, but you're unaffected. The new open cast that they plan, the proposal is that it will extract up to 500,000 tonnes per year with 55 articulated trucks extra per day on our road. At the moment, it sounds very simple. They're buying into the parish through the church, school, all the local facilities, the GEA, the community centre. They're funding everything, or seem to be. So we're a very small number in our parish that are fighting this. This is it. This is who we are. 2 people. I've lived with it all my life, as Bernie has. This is handed down for the last 4 or 5 generations. And I certainly don't want to hand it down to my kids, neither does Bernie. So we're looking for the support when the time comes, if that's possible, to try and put a stop to this, or even put some form of stipulations in place, so to help us. But that's about it. That's all I have to say.
I'm here just to say the West is awake. We woke up a long time ago, but you didn't notice. So it wasn't noticed, I should say. We had a Canadian company looking for a prospecting license. They were considered. It was up on the website. A company called Omagh. At the same time, they were being taken to court in Canada for all sorts of misconduct and criminality. So actually the license was being considered right up to 5 or 6 months ago, until they were found guilty and fined and just disbarred, or whatever the word is. So that one was put to sleep, but because of illegality rather than anything else. We are very concerned about our Tyrone. And when I arrived here an hour ago, I looked at this grand building and I thought about a poem Sean O'Riordan had about Tyrone, that Tyrone, the whole tea all into Dáil. He said Tyrone is at the back of the house. It's a lovely upside down country. This is what's happening to us. We are upside down because we have been kind of disjointed. But what is lovely now, we're a group, an All-Ireland group. We're together, and together we are strong. And we will fight this, and no matter where they will come looking for their gold or their molybdenum or whatever other minerals or rare earths that they want, we will be there. So we're together. So first of
of all, I'm just going to reiterate a lot of the stuff that other people said, but I thought it's very important today to, in our journey along the way in all of this, we've had tremendous help from Fidelma and Cormac, and I just want to say a big thank you from our group in Donegal for the tremendous help that they've given us, and I want to say that along the heart, alright? Really, truly. And I just want to say thanks to Linda and Vicenza and that for all their help on the online, on our online group, and I just want to say thanks to everybody else that has given all of their time in setting up CAMIO. Like I just couldn't be there all the time or anything, a lot of the time, and I just want to say thanks to everybody and all their great work that we've all been doing together, okay? And that is, I'm in the very, very same boat as a lot of the speakers here. We had gold miners have come looking, and we've sent them away with the sore backside. So the next time they come back again, we're going to do the same again. And I'd say just keep up the good fight, people, alright?
RTD Breedsmith was intended to come here today to talk, but unfortunately Bree has a very severe leg break. She can't make it. She does send her apologies, she sends her full support, and of course her full solidarity. I know Bree was here, the first thing she actually would do would be to say a massive thank you to all the organisers here, to Louise, to Verona, to Fidelma, to Cormac, and I think it's really right that we should give them all a massive, massive round of applause. And of course, everyone up at the Greencastle People's Office who worked so very, very hard behind the scenes. It's actually quite hard to believe. About 2 months ago, we held a similar demonstration, not as big, not as colourful as this, on the border between Strabane and Lifford, between Donegal and Tyrone. And a lot of speakers here today spoke then, and the message from most of the speakers then was we needed to get feet on the street, and this is a perfect example of it happening. He's promised lots of colour, and that's exactly what we've got here. A lot of the speakers so far have highlighted the fact that we cannot trust the establishment parties in Strabane, the establishment parties in the Dáil, to do the right thing with anything to do with the environment to reverse climate change. They are more interested in the dirty profits of multinationals, of large extractive capitalists, and they're not to be trusted to look after the interests of the ordinary decent people and ordinary communities being affected in Donegal and Tyrone and Monaghan. People before profit have long stood against extractive capitalism, and we will continue to do that. As a father of a young family, as an uncle of nieces and nephews, I personally want to say a massive thank you to every single person involved here in every campaign. You're fighting for the future of our children and our grandchildren, and that is worth more than even a fraction of a pound of any piece of gold. So thank you all very much. I'll just hand you back to Fidelma here. Hopefully this is an historic event. This is literally feet on the street. The next time, maybe if we all bring 2 or 3 more people, if it's safe to do so, then this is a movement of people of all backgrounds, all faiths, of all beliefs, and of none. Let's make sure that these feet in the streets grow, and that there isn't an ounce of gold taken out of Tyrone, Donegal, or anywhere on the island of Ireland. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak here today about opposition to mining in Ireland. I'll take a couple of minutes and I'll tell you why we need that opposition. We are in the middle of a climate crisis. We look throughout the world, you will see global warming. You will see fires. and you see floods, and it's destroying more world. Mining will hasten that destruction. Mining is not neutral carbon. It's not. It's not environmentally green. Mining is black and destructive. Mining takes thousands of tons of rock out of the earth and blackens our green fields. It pours pollution into our rivers, kills our fish stock, and blackens our rivers. It puts toxins into the air and blackens our lungs. It burns diesel, thousands and thousands of gallons of diesel, and blackens our daylight. This needs to stop. We need to send a clear message to the Dublin government. Ireland is going to stay free. We need to send a clear message to those